Starting the webinar. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second in our fall series of webinars of the Society for the Protection of Nature in Israel. Welcome to all of you. I'm Jay Shofet, Director of Partnerships and Development here at SPNI in Tel Aviv. I'll soon be in the States in mid-October with Dan Alone, our guest tonight. Dan is our Deputy CEO, and we'll be traveling with Professor Yossi Leshem, our world-renowned ornithologist. We'll be in Austin, in the New York area, New Jersey, and in Toronto. Maybe you'll catch us at one of our events. If you're on our mailing list, you'll see where we'll be meeting. We'll also be traveling with, at least to New York and Toronto, with General Mansour Abu Rashid, General of Jordan, who is helping us advance this very project we're talking about, Startup Nature today, on the other side of the Jordan River. Startup Nature is an incredible project we're doing in a couple of flagship sites on the Jordan River near Beit Sha'an at Kfar Rupin, and on the Mediterranean coast near Magan Michael between Netanya and Haifa. Incredible wetlands rewilding projects many of you may have heard of, but we'd like to make you all familiar with it. Thanks everybody for saying hello. Maggie and Leon Stalwart, our longtime chairman, now crucial board member, and Maggie, who's at the JCC, the Kaplan JCC in Tenafly, New Jersey, will be, you can see us live on the night of October 20th. Dan will be speaking, as will Professor Yossi Leshem and General Mansour, all about this topic that we're talking about now, an incredible wetlands rehabilitation project, restoration project, rewilding. And we're even dreaming and beginning to work towards having that be a cross-border wetlands rewilding project. Excited to share it with you tonight, folks. We'll get going in just a second or two. We're 80 people already on the Zoom, and more coming, and Facebook Live as well. Thank you so much, everybody coming in from Beersheba and Nashville and Half Moon Bay, out near Silicon Valley, and Baltimore and New York and Binghamton, and of course the beautiful Berkshires in Western Massachusetts, maybe the most beautiful spot in the world. Well, but I'm not objective. That's where I grew up. Miroslav in Belgrade, I don't know what you would do without you. Thank you for joining. Walnut Creek, Judy Adler, thank you. Always here. And Ocean Pines, Maryland, and London, and Philadelphia, and New Jersey, all over, people. Thank you so much. Winnipeg, Manitoba, Florida, Seattle. We really are well represented here, folks. Really, really appreciate it. We'll write your questions in the question and answer feature, and any comments or anything in the chat. And we'll be taking questions and answers at the end. I think we're 4 minutes after the hour. We're going to get going here. We're close to 100 people already, and I'm sure people will be joining. Oh, Cedric from Luxembourg. Nice to have you with us. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining, for spending an hour with us this Sunday. Have an exciting, and really important webinar to share with you tonight about our Startup Nature project. And so it gives me great pleasure to introduce Dan Alone. Dan will be presenting tonight. He's our Deputy CEO, new at that job. He's been there almost a year. Dan has been the longtime director of our birding department. Recently, we called BirdLife Israel. It's the Israeli chapter of the global NGO BirdLife International. But a long time, the birding or ornithological department of SPNI, he's got a team of incredible birders, many of whom you people know as well. And certainly invite you guys to come birding with Dan and his staff whenever you're here. So Dan, if you want to turn on your camera, great. I want to just thank you very much for being here with us tonight. I know you got a busy schedule before all the Jewish holidays come up, as do I, and as do I guess us all. And especially for us as we plan our trip. We're going to be in the States already on October 18th. And in addition to thanking you, Dan, and thanking everybody who's joining tonight, I especially want to express how pleased and appreciative SPNI is of the growing number of people and foundations who are coming forward to provide funding for this very exciting project. It really, really warms our heart. We've raised really close to $2 million out of an $11 million endowment we're trying to raise. More coming, and we especially want to thank a very dedicated group in Toronto, Canada. A group of dedicated donors who've been with us from the beginning, helping us plan this project over the last 3 to 4 years, and are with us and will be with us for events in Toronto this October. Thank you guys very much. And our newest significant supporters of this project is the Gottesman Foundation in New York. We thank them very much for a recent, very supportive and appreciated gift. And Dan, may we go from strength to strength in our garnering support for this project, philanthropic support, and of course, public sector support in Israel, which you'll talk about, which has been very, very forthcoming. May we be as successful in that as, frankly, you and your team is being successful in this wetlands rewilding. Because I can say as a layperson in the ecological field, what I saw after the rewilding of the Kfar Rupen site, and the way I can imagine what Magan Michael will be in another few months, really, really warms my heart, and it makes me understand how vital this project is to the Middle East. So please take it away. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Jay. It's a pleasure to be here. And it's a pleasure to submit you with our very ambitious project, Startup Nature. I love this title, One Small Country, Global Responsibility, because I think it's really what it is. So what is, it doesn't, okay. So as most of you probably know, Israel is one of the most important corridor for bird migration. Hundreds of millions of birds passing through Israel twice a year. Now they are traveling from the breeding area in the north and east down to Africa, and then in the spring, in March, April, May, they all returning to the breeding sites in Europe and Asia. Israel is an important stopover for these hundreds of millions of birds. Important stopover where there's hardly any hunting, and there's still places for these birds to rest and to forage, which is very important because there are less and less of these sites, places for birds to feed, places where birds can feel safe with no hunting and no perching. Israel is one of these places. And but Startup Nature, and this is, for example, one of the greatest example, the entire European population of white pelicans, about 60,000 of them, flying over Israel twice a year. Actually, every day now, about 1,500, 2,000 passing daily. This is now the peak time of the migration of pelicans. All of these pelicans will winter in Africa, East Africa, Sudan. That's where they go. But on the way, they need to stop in Israel and forage. And it's become hard to do for them because there are less and less sites where they can stop and find fish. This is what they eat. Because the historic wetlands of the Middle East, as well as the historic wetlands of Israel, hardly exist. Most of the freshwater lakes in Turkey, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Jordan, as well as Israel, do not exist anymore. This is an example, the Hula Lake, which is unfortunately not exist anymore since the mid-50s. This is where these hundreds of, tens of thousands of pelicans used to stop, forage, and then keep traveling to Ethiopia. For many years, for these pelicans, the place they could go, they still have here and there small natural freshwater lakes, but most of the food come from fish ponds. So it was a conflict with the farmers. So for many years, the Nature and Park Reserve Authority, together with us, the SPNI, we create for these pelicans fish ponds or lakes or reservoirs that they can land and forage before they travel to Africa. So the pelican maybe is not the example I want to show here, because we don't really want these pelicans going to fish ponds because they create a conflict. But these fish ponds was a kind of, if you want, a small, I would say, compensation for the lost wetlands of Israel. As for me, as a young bird watcher in Israel, this is where I used to go birding, fish ponds, because the water, the vegetation, as you can see on the left, on the right picture, where you can see the stalks, was very attractive for many birds, for many migratory birds, for birds that stay here for the winter, as well as for breeding birds. But slowly, fish ponds become less and less attractive for birds. They become more, they had less and less vegetation. They look not so attractive and not so natural. And also, slowly, the fishery of Israel become a bad business. It's because of the water become very expensive in Israel, and also it's become very easy and very cheap to import fish to Israel. The government keep reducing tax on imported fish to Israel. So fish farming become less and less attractive. One of the optional direction for fish farms or for the owner of the fish farms to go, if you look at the picture at the bottom, is covering these fish farms with a solar panel. One can say, well, that's very good. We need lots of renewable energy, but renewable energy should be on places where they don't conflict with nature. When it's built on a fish farm, then we lose the natural part of the fish. So this is where we are now. A race against time. Fish farms closing across Israel, and we see an opportunity here. We find out that these fish farms can be for us where we can create or recreate our wetland back. If you look at the map, this is where fish farms in Israel located. The Bet Shean Valley near the Jordan River, the Hula Valley, Zvulun area, it's on the western Galilee coast, the Carmel coast near Caesarea, near Haifa, and Hefer area a little bit south of there. The idea of Startup Nature is working together with the owner of the fish farms, lease the land of these fish farms. All of these fish farms are locating on freshwater streams. So, and this area in the past, until about 60, 70, 80 years ago, this area was beautiful freshwater wetlands. So the idea is to rewild these fish farms and create wetland on these fish farms, but the farmers, the owner of the fish farms should be part of this project. Therefore, we lease the land for them, and they become a part of this project. So this is the key area where we want to do it. It's great opportunity for us to secure the future of the flyways, but not only the flyways, also local birds and local nature. Israel hardly have any freshwater wetland survive. So this is a way for us to recreate wetlands in Israel. So what are we doing? The idea is, as I say, to lease these fish farms for long term, 25 years minimum, hopefully more than that. And then we can secure this habitat. The government is helping us to restore, to do ecological restoration for this site. The idea is, in order to do it as natural as possible, we are going to use the same water that the fish farms was taking from the water, from the nature for many years, into a new wetland. It's not only good for the nature, it's also good for the people. It can generate annually about $15 million from ecotourism. People who are going to come and watch this beautiful, amazing migration. And as you can see, it's going to save rare species such as great spotted eagle, black francolins, and other. And like I said, it's not only going to be good for the economy, it's also going to be good for people who like nature and can come and enjoy more, I would say, nice and good and quality nature in a few areas in Israel. So what we are doing? Our first project is in Kfar Upin. Kfar Upin is just near the Jordan River, about 35, 40 kilometers south of the Kinneret, of Lake of Galilee. We have two sites in Kfar Upin. One of them is a big one, about 50 acre, which is located just on the river, and the other one is a little smaller, but just near it. I will show you the map in a minute. like I said, we use water from a natural spring near the kibbutz, near Kibbutz Kfar Rupin, a natural spring that for 70 years was using for the fish farming of Kfar Rupin, and also as water for the fields of the kibbutz. And now, due to new deal we have with the farmers, we are ready to get this water and use them to our new rewild project. These two area of old fish farms and a new site in Kfar Rupin. Our second site will be in Maagan Michael. It's 4 fish farms, fish ponds near the Mediterranean. It's about 33, 40 acre with a problem to a larger site. I will show it to you later. It's a beautiful habitat near the Mediterranean, near the coast, and also near the crocodile stream, which is one of the last freshwater stream in the Mediterranean. So this is Kfar Rupin. This is how its site looks about 2.5 years ago. You can see the big fish pond. Here it's completely dry. The Jordan River is here. This is the smaller site, the 13 acre site. And this is the smaller site today. We spend with the help of the government, we restore these small fish farms and create beautiful wetland habitat. And this is the big one, what we call Ma'agar Amud Reservoir. Like I said, it was fish pond for 50 or 60 years. And today is one of the most beautiful wetlands in Israel, full of water, full of life. In a day in May, few of us counted 90 species of birds in just few hours of bird watching travel near the lake. So this small 80-acre site is already creating an amazing variety of nature, and it's not only birds, it's much more than that. This is again Amud Reservoir. Just beautiful, and it's brand new. This is how it looks. So you can see the big site here and the smaller site here. Hopefully, by the end of this year, we will also restore another area here. So we will have altogether, just on this complex, another 20 acre of old fish farms, but with a great potential of another few hundred acres surrounded the Kibbutz Kfar Rupin. So there's a great potential to create, I would say, hub of wetland around Kibbutz Kfar Rupin. Going to Maagan Michael.
Dan, if I could interrupt for a second, if you could go back for a second to that map, and maybe the picture before that, if you could point out the border fence and the actual Jordan River, and maybe just say a word, since I already introduced General Mansour, the concept General Mansour is advancing. Why don't you just say a word about where that fence is and what
I left it. I left this for the end of
the end. Well, okay. So at least point out the geography.
But you can see Jordan here. If you can see my school, so this is Jordan. So it's coming later. So this is Maagan Michael. the crocodile stream is here. The name crocodile stream, by the way, is this is the last place in Israel where crocodile found at the end of the 19th century, not so long ago. And you can see here the city or the settlement of Jisr Azarka, very special Arab community, unfortunately a very poor community, and hopefully we can, by creating this park, we can also a little bit help also to this community. So this is Maagan Michael. You can see the fish farms again near the Mediterranean. And this is today. So one can say, it's a sad story. You can see the bulldozers taking the fish farms away, but no, this is our habitat restoration. We are taking these fish farms and create a fully functional wetland habitat. So by the end of this year, this constructed area will look completely different, fully functioning habitat, like I say, a wetland habitat. This is the site of Maagan Michael. The crocodile stream is here. These are the fish ponds, and this is our park with the blue line, number 18, number 21. This is the area where we are walking today. But you can see also these two big ponds here. Hopefully, or not hopefully, we hope that by the end of this year, we can expand the park with these two big ponds, adding them to the park. So we will have, instead of 33 acres, we will have about 70 acres of wetland. And hopefully in the future, we can expand and get more area on this side. You can see the Mediterranean here and the coast, and Kibbutz Maagan Michael is here, Jisr Azarka is here. And as Jay mentioned, Startup Nature is now going also to across the border. Back in June, together with my colleague, Professor Yossi Leshem and Baruch Spiegel, working for many years with retired General Mansour from Jordan, from the Amman Center for Peace and Development. We called them and showed them our project in Kfar Upin. We showed them the potential to take this project to create such project also on the other side of the border, on the Jordanian area. If I go back a little bit, so if you look at this picture, if you can see my school, this area is in Jordan, and here there are two fields, one in Israel, one in Jordan, on the River Jordan, and by a small, I would say, construction work, we can create another 100 acre of very, very important freshwater habitat on the River Jordan. So we met them in June. They were here again 2 weeks ago for a workshop we organized in Zichron Yaakov. And I was shocked to hear from them that they already met with the owner of the sites, and we are in a process of probably by early next year to create the first cross-border startup nature project in Israel and Jordan. And so on top of the hundreds of acres that we are aiming to get in Israel, we may get also hundreds of acres in Jordan. As everybody knows, nature, birds, water doesn't know any border. So the vision is going forward. As you can see, we already have functioning wetland in Kfar Rupin, beautiful wetland. You're welcome to come and enjoy it together with us. We are in the process of working and restoring the site in Magan Michael. And at the same time, we are working hard to allocate more sites for the same model to be located in the area I showing you in the map earlier of this presentation. And with the help of many, many good people from Israel, from Canada, from the USA, and from other places, we hope to make this vision fully functioning in few years' time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much. We have a bunch of questions coming up. I want to just start with one. You touched on it a little bit, but I want to ask you a little more directly, if you could expand for a second on the educational aspects of this whole project. Not just for birders, but for the general public, for school children. How is that going to impact? And especially at Magan Michael, which is both very close to population centers of the country, and as people may know, we have as you mentioned, we have a field school there, and we already have educational activities going on, informal educational activities. So give us a word about that and about the center at Magan Michael.
I think the big power of SPNI is that this combination of practical nature conservation and education. And you mentioned Magan Michael is a great example. Magan Michael is a field study center with guiding every year about 2,000 days of guiding days with tens of thousands of children, of students. So this park is a great opportunity to show them what is a functioning habitat, to show them birds, to talk to them about birds migration, to explain the importance of wetland. And so we have a great match there of the site just nearby the fish ponds, the field study center. We are going to do the same thing in Kfar Rupin. The site is completely arranged for people to visit. And again, we're going to use the power of SPNI organizing field trip for students and for visitors to show them and to explain them about nature.
Thank you. That's cool. So look, there's a bunch of questions. I just want to sum it up. If I could, like if I tell this story to my 4-year-old granddaughter, and if she understood English, I would tell her that once upon a time, there was this country called Eretz Israel, and it was fairly, even though it was semi-arid, it was fairly well watered with bountiful springs and flowing rivers in the north part of the country. And the birds used it as a very important stop on their migration route. But then the Zionists came and with good intentions developed the land and dried up all those wetlands and partially gave an answer to the birds by creating fish ponds on those wetlands. But basically dams streams were dammed up and springs were stopped and overused, and even the aquifers were overused, and the Kinneret was overused, and the water kind of disappeared. But then, truthfully, it's the story be told that you, Dan Alon, who had a personal hand in the whole hula restoration in the 1990s, after we drained the hula, part of it, a small part of it, was reflooded in the 1990s, and you were there to help manage that whole bird situation. And now, 3 or 4 years ago, looking at this subject with your planning team and with this group of dedicated philanthropists and environmentalists in Toronto, really came up with this idea of turning back these stopped up wetlands that were now fish ponds in all these areas of Israel into these incredible nature reserves. So anyway, that's just a great story. And I just wanted to practice that story for my granddaughter, because I think it's a great one. Look, there's a couple of questions here. I want to answer a quick one. The hulas were, Vaughn Harrison writes, the hula wetlands were drained to prevent malaria. Is there any concern in Israel about the return of malaria when the wetlands are restored? Just my quick answer, Dan, is that malaria, that's a myth. And the malaria was largely eradicated in Israel by the 1950s. Actually, Israel made great steps in the 20s and in the 30s and in the 40s to eliminate malaria. And there was no need. That was not a need of Israel when they created the hula. There were other ways to deal with that, the remaining parts of that problem, through channelization and better sanitation and all kinds of things that had already been, as I said, in use in Israel since the 1920s. So,
Jay, if I can add on that, people in Kfar Upin complaining about bugs and mosquitoes. So we asked the Ministry of Environment to check our sites and say, nothing, there are no mosquitoes. And then he went to the fish farms, and the fish farms was full of mosquitoes. So I think functioning wetland, functioning habitat is actually the answer for this question.
Right. Thank you very much.
And I add to that no, there is no risk for malaria. Of course, malaria was not a problem also when the hula was drying.
Right. There hasn't been a case of malaria in Israel since 1967. Barbara Thomas asked if we tried to buy the fish farms to provide permanent protection for the area. 25 years is not really that long, and the areas could be destroyed after that if it's lost. But Dan, I mean, we've talked about that a lot, Barbara. That's what we would have loved to do if we lived in almost any other Western European country. But in Israel, the situation is different. Dan, you want to relate to that?
Yeah, so we can't buy land in Israel, and 25 years is the longest we can get. But we know, as we have an example for other projects, we can by the end of these 25 years, we can take it for another 25 years, and it shouldn't be a problem to keep it forever.
Thank you. Miroslav asks, if I understand the question, birds eat vast amounts of fish. Fish must be, the ponds must be restocked. Who supplies the young fish fries to restock the fish in ponds? Which species are most common in revitalized ponds? Dan, I think what he's asking is, once the fish ponds are drained of the farmed fish, and other people have asked this question, it's a good question. How do fish actually get back into those wetlands? Are we restocking them? And if they're eaten every year during migration seasons, do we need to restock them? I think that's a question Miroslav's asking.
The natural habitat have fish, and fish will arrive back to this restoring area with the water coming from the streams. In this site in Magan Michael, we didn't add even one fish, and there are fish, there good community of fish already there, so this is not a problem. If the question is about pelicans, the answer for pelicans is unfortunately to create restaurants for pelicans, which is done by the Nature and Park Reserve Authority together with others. We are also helping. There are 2 sites in Israel where pelicans are feeding. And unfortunately, this is the only way to help this pelican migrate and forage on the way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Harry Schaefer asks, are there any corridors joining the various wetlands and or forests to aid other animals expanding their ranges? I mean, ecological corridors is one of our big issues. And you mentioned, corridors maybe in the Rupin area, but in general, are these wetlands connected in any ways?
This is one of our aims, to try and create clusters of fish farms, if you want. So in Kfar Rupin, as I mentioned, we are already in a process of adding more sites, and this will be connected to agriculture areas which doesn't have barriers. So it's going to be a good connectivity, I hope. Maagan Michael, again, we are searching for more areas on the 2 sides of the kibbutz, north and south, and the Mediterranean is there, and there's no borders and no restrictions on the Mediterranean. So it is not, what we perfectly want to have, but the situation is not bad.
An anonymous question. With the climate in Israel, is there a problem with evaporation in the water on the ponds? You didn't mention much about the carbon sequestration, carbon storage possibilities or fact of the carbon storage of these wetland habitats, are incredible nature-based solutions. But Dan, we did meet with a couple of scientists who looked at that issue of evaporation, among other things, and the whole interface of the climate and how much carbon is being stored in the biomass on the land, in the water. What can you say about the evaporation issue and maybe carbon storage for a minute?
Well, evaporation is part of nature, and this is nature. Some of this water evaporate, and then we get them back somehow. Of course, we take that in our model. We actually would like to have these wetlands almost dry during autumn, during fall, because many of the migratory birds and also local birds and others love this muddy habitat and not necessarily water plants. So this is regarding evaporation. Regarding carbon storage, so as many of you probably know, a functioning wetland is one of the greatest capture of carbon and greatest storage of carbon. We are now calculating the carbon storage in our wetland. We have very good results from Kfar Rupin. We hope also to get credit for that. This is also a good news for our wetlands and for our economy model. So we actually wanted to create biodiversity refuge, biodiversity restoration, but we also have a very good capture and storage of carbon. And of course, this is very good.
Absolutely. Murray in Toronto asks about funding, and that since the ultimate beneficiaries of these efforts are the birds in the European countries, they should be doing some funding. And the answer is yes, we are definitely working on that. Dan, maybe a word or two about proposals we're considering for LIFE and for the other funding arms of the European Union, of which there are many?
Yeah, so European Union money is one of the optional funding opportunity here. We just heard a very good news that the LIFE project is one of the big European funding foundation in Europe to restore nature, to buy lands, and etc. etc. Until this year, LIFE work only in the European Union, but this year they announced that they will work on the neighborhood country of Europe, and Israel is one of them. And this is by the way, one of the reasons for that is lobbying of BirdLife International and other organizations in Europe that lobby into the European Union for this. But this is a great opportunity for us. The minute the Ministry of Israel will sign the contract with LIFE project, we hope to get funding from Europe as well as other funds.
Thanks. Barbara asked about, will we be offering tours of these places that are being rewilded? I'll just answer that. Yes, of course, in two ways. First of all, right now, Dan and I have been taking supporters, prospective supporters, and journalists to these two sites at Kfar Rup and Magen Michael, really since Israel opened after Corona. I think we were up there, Dan, in late February, early March, and ever since then, I think we've both been to both of those places a few times a month. So yes, for a private tour now, if you're considering supporting or if you're in Israel, and of course, when it's open, there'll be guided tours, educational tours, bird tours, probably different levels of expertise and stuff like that. So yeah, of course, that's getting these things accessible to the public is really one of the important aims. Dan, what's the total number of acres that we're realistically can expect to restore to natural wetlands in Israel? The big picture.
When we started, I thought it will be about 1,500 acres, something like that. I'm now much more optimistic, and I think that we can get maybe 10,000 acres, maybe even more. We were so surprised to see about 80 people showing up last week, 2 weeks ago, for our workshop in Zichron Yaakov from governmental agencies, etc. And these people were there not only because we gave them good food and nice lectures. We are also working together with them to take this model out of not only for SPNI, also for others. So I'm very optimistic that we can really restore and rewild much bigger lands. Like I said, maybe 10,000 acres for Israel. It's huge.
That's great. A few questions around this area, Dan. Other than the birds, what actually is being done in terms of the ecological restoration? Plant species, reptiles, mammals, what are we doing? And what have we observed?
In Kfar Rupin, there are 2 sites. In the big sites, we didn't do anything because it doesn't require anything. The only thing we did is supply fresh and quality water, and everything is happened by himself.
Natural spring water, when you say quality water.
Yes. On the smaller site in Kfar Rupin, we planted local plants. I think about 60 or 70 species. We spend a lot of time, energy, and money to manage this. And if you come and see that, it's amazing to see how many plants are there. It's just amazing to see. in Magan Michael, it will be a mix. We're going to put some, our, it's very, I would say, site dependent. In some of the sites, we will add vegetation, or we'll do some other things, like, for example, take these fish farms and instead of a square of sand or whatever what it is, ground, we will create much complexity habitat. This is the main thing here. Not adding plants and of course not animals, because there is no need for to bring animals. They will come by themselves.
And they have. We've seen mammals, amphibians, reptiles, correct?
Yeah.
You want to mention some of those species?
Amphibians, fish, mammals like jungle cats and wild cats. I was surprised to see wild cats near one of near the sites in Kfar Kupin. Of course, like I said, 90 species of birds, butterflies, everything is just
yeah, dragonflies. I'm always fascinated over there.
Yes. Yeah.
Have we signed the Ramsar Convention? I took a second to Google that. That's the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands of International Importance, especially as waterfowl habitats, an international treaty signed in Iran in 1971. Familiar with it, Dan?
Yes, of course. No, not for the moment. Ramsar sites have a lot of requirements, which I don't think we have. It's maybe if some of the places will become a nature reserve, national parks, that's something to consider. But not at the moment. No.
Okay. Yeah. We're gonna enter the lightning round. We have 7 minutes left, and the questions keep coming in. And I'm just still in the Q&A, but there's a lot of questions in the comments. So, quick answer. Boy, I think this is a tongue-in-cheek question. Any possibility of bringing crocodiles back to Crocodile Creek?
No.
No, huh? That would be something, though. In the U.S., there's been some problems with pollution on fish farms. How do you deal with this issue in Israel? If you're talking about pollution in the agricultural setting of fish farms, that's not our deal. But Dan, what do you want to say about that?
Yeah, there's a new reform in Israeli fish farming, creating special ponds to let all this pollution
to seep down to
and then to release fresh water. Still, it is not the best solution. So I think here's another solution for that: creating a functional natural wetland instead of fish farms.
Okay.
It's good for our streams as well. That's one of them.
Okay, cool. Yeah, tour of all right now, Barbara and everybody, we have 2 rewilded sites. One that is finished at Kfar Rupin, and the second one will be finished by the end of this year at Magan Michael. But the rest of it is still on our planning table, and we're moving forward. But there's just 2 sites at the moment. Are invasive plant or animal species a problem, or are we expecting these to be problems in these wetlands?
Yeah, we're trying to remove invasive species of plants. Invasive species of animal, it's problematic. Not only in these wetland sites, also in Israel. This is maybe for another lecture. But
okay,
like I said, yes for invasive species of plants.
Okay, great. Brenly will be in touch with you directly about touring the sites when you're in Tel Aviv. Okay. I'm going to the anything going on or at Stay Eliyahu fish ponds? Somebody's asking.
We were trying in the past. We didn't succeed. I hear that the kibbutz is trying to do something on his own. I hope so.
Okay. Sydney asks, why is the Israeli government not funding this? Dan, we did a terrible job of that messaging. The Israeli government has funded the infrastructure development, the actual restoration to the tune of over $4 million already, more coming. There's more on the table. And that is not our problem. Our problem is the ongoing maintenance of these places and their accessibility to the public. Because the wetlands restoration the government is funding in various, we're getting more and more support from government ministries, from the Drainage Authority of Israel, from Israel's National Water Corporation, from the regional councils, and from the kibbutzim themselves. So that is happening. Restoration. Yeah, somebody is suggesting a T-shirt, Dan. So I really think with a logo on a T-shirt. I think we're going to be doing that actually. Yes, the cross-border project we're very, very excited about. Is Jordan joining in with the financing? Not an issue yet. I don't think we're looking for Jordan to help finance so much yet. But Dan, any thoughts about that?
No, I don't think that Jordan will come with funding. Not in the beginning. We are searching for a fund for Jordan as well, and there's a big potential for funding and foundations all over the world that finance cross-border relationships, and this is what we're aiming.
And Barbara asks, different Barbara, when is the semi-annual bird migration? Well, it peaks in the spring and in the fall. March and November, probably the peak months, but it really spreads out, Dan, over about what, 10 months of the year, the migration.
March to May and mid-August to the end of November.
Okay. Couple people are talking about how important and beautiful those wetlands are in South Florida. So many birds and wildlife, but no bugs. So that's what we're saying. I know, Dan, I don't know about you, but they are very impressive, those South Florida wetlands.
I hope to have such big lands.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Evergreen and etc. Yeah.
Yeah.
Been there.
A short description of a tour of the new project for visitors. I mean, our former board chair Alan asked about a description of a tour of these projects. I mean, a tour would just mean that we'd probably take you in a vehicle to different observation points from the various sites, or at least in Kfar Rupen, maybe in a vehicle. Magan Michael, we'd walk around, point out the various things that are going on, and and our birders will point out the bird species, and certainly in the migration seasons, but really any time of the year, they're very impressive nature sites. A lot of people are asking about visiting. Please, first of all, we have another last call for our trip that's coming to Israel November 6th. That's a week-long visit. We'll be visiting the Kfar Rupen site. Our American and Canadian affiliates are recruiting for this trip, and many board members will be attending. That's November 6th, and we're doing it again mid-March. So that's one way to see these sites. But if you're in Israel, we can hook you up with special day tours with our experts to see these sites. And bird migration trips. Yes, Dan's old unit, runs trips to the Eilat Festival in the spring and the Hula Festival in the fall, and there are other options. There are other options during the year for these trips, right, Dan? Birding trips.
Please search for Eilat Bird Festival next March. just Google Eilat Bird Festival. I don't think we have any trip for the fall. We already have few full trips for this fall, as far as I know. So the next option is March 2023, Eilat, amazing bird festival, millions of raptors and beautiful.
Amazing, amazing. Well, Dan, thank you very much. We're at the top of the hour. We had over 120 people on here, and I don't know how many more on Facebook. I think we answered most of the questions. There's also a suggestion. A couple of people from Florida have gotten together and suggest that we visit South Florida to give this presentation. So we definitely will plan to do that probably in March, April or May of next year. Seriously, so we'll keep you posted on the South Florida trip. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending, for spending this hour with us. Thank you again very much to our supporters. If you'd like to support us online, there's a link in the site. And if you're looking to perhaps a naming donation, a more significant donation, we have many naming opportunities at both of these sites. We'd love to discuss that with you, show you how you can really make a lasting, forever impact in nature conservation and nature rewilding in Israel. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, back office, David Amichai and Barry Sheridan, taking care of things in the back office. Dan, see you tomorrow morning.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks, Scott and everybody. Bye-bye.